Now back to our breaking story, the confirmation that the long-awaited cabinet reshuffle will take place tomorrow at 7 p.m. The presidency says Cyril Ramaphosa is still finalizing the reconfiguration of his executive. Let's now bring in political analyst Dr. Levi Ndou. Thank you so much for making time, Dr. Ndou. I appreciate it. So the day is now final. Tomorrow we're going to find out what the new executive of President Cyril Ramaphosa looks like. I said earlier this week that it's taken so long for the president to consult and make this decision, but I imagine it's not going to be like major overhaul of the changes, but probably going to be underwhelming. What are you expecting?
Good afternoon, Clement. Good afternoon to the viewers at home. Of course, finally, the wait is over, and this is what most South Africans have been waiting for and expecting for quite some time. They say in politics, time runs very fast. And indeed, most of us couldn't wait longer. And that is what, in my view, has also put the president under some form of pressure. My expectation would be that we're not going to expect too much on the reconfiguration of government, and I'll tell you the reason why. The reason being that the president has to select amongst the very same people that we know, and if there are changes that is going to make, of course we'll all be anxiously waiting to know the person will be responsible for electricity. But what I also expect is that it will still be a process of moving the same faces or individuals that we know around, taking them some out from certain portfolios, moving them to other portfolios, and very same people are actually going to still be available in the Ramaphosa's cabinet.
One of the things we are looking forward to seeing is Paul Mashatile being appointed as the deputy president. In all likelihood, we are likely to see him being appointed to that position. I was speaking to Professor Keith earlier on, and he was suggesting that Paul Mashatile doesn't want to be an invisible deputy president. This is someone who wants to get his hands dirty, so to speak. And I'm just wondering here if we possibly may have a scenario where the president appoints him as a deputy president, but with some additional responsibilities. What do you think?
Well, I think there are a few aspects that we need to look at. When you look at the structure of the governing party, the ANC, they talk about aligning the organization and government. And of course, that brings in the huge expectations that Paul Mashatile will therefore have to be appointed as the deputy president. Paul Mashatile has been involved in many responsibilities in government and in the party. And it is good that wherever Paul was deployed, he demonstrated a lot of energy and courage, and he always wanted to make sure that he makes a mark. Another aspect that I've identified with Paul Mashatile is that he might be old, but he appears to be having a lot of energy, and he will want to make a difference, and his presence will have to be felt. My sense is that if Paul is appointed the deputy president, we're actually going to see a lot of energy happening in parliament, and of course on matters relating to legislation, we are going to see him playing a very important role. I don't see President Ramaphosa appointing someone except Paul Mashatile, unless there are very, very strong reasons not to do so.
Yeah, I mean, he's got to really come up with some really good reason why he's not doing so. And of course, Paul Mashatile has his eyes on the prize. This is a man who wants to one day be the president of this country. So being in that position is going to be critical for him. How much freedom do you think the president has to make the changes he wants to make? And I say he wants to make because I'm thinking about the victory from Nasrec, where he's got this overwhelming victory. He doesn't have to look over his shoulders. He's got the support of the party, of the NEC, the NWC. Do you think he's going to go big and make the changes he wants to make, or he still has to make those political considerations, and even keep some people he may not want to keep, but he does because this is still politics?
President Ramaphosa has always been talking about the unity and renewal of the ANC. And I think because of his emphasis on the unity of the ANC, he might therefore be forced to also consider some people who are perceived to be his opponents within the ANC, only for the purposes of ensuring that there is unity in the ANC. He has done sufficient consultation with the alliance partners and members of his own organization, the ANC. But at the same time, there are issues that we need to consider, which are that his hands are so tight that he has to appoint people that are there, that are right in front of his face. If they might consider cutting down the size of cabinet, that might give him more chance to appoint only the people that he would consider to be his close allies. But if the cabinet remains huge, he will therefore have to be forced also to appoint those that are known to be his opponents. But at the same time, the president must make a reconfiguration of government that should make sense to an onlooker who is outside politics. He must come up with a team that is not tainted, but a team that has got sufficient energy to make a difference. Whatever decision he makes tomorrow, it will also have an impact on the campaign of himself and his party next year, in the next few months that are coming.
How stressful is this day going to be for the incumbent ministers? Is it going to be an anxiety-filled day? Because, I mean, all of them are waiting to see, whether their portfolios are going to be affected. Unless things are done differently now, because with the former president, there are ministers who would find out, like the rest of us, when Jacob Zuma would make changes to his cabinet. So one wonders if the president will give them that courtesy of at least giving them a call. But I imagine a lot of them are wondering, am I in or am I out?
Fikile Mbalula says that those that are selfish and who are only looking at themselves will be very much anxious, and they might not be sleeping because they don't know what the future holds for them. I think that it is the case with most people who occupy ministerial positions. They are not quite sure of what is going to happen to them. And believe you or not, the reality is that most ministers are not having a good sleep because of the announcement that is supposed to be made tomorrow. Another aspect that we have to look at will be as to whether the president is going to consider some of the ministers who have not been re-elected back into the National Executive Committee of his party, the ANC. So it's a situation that he should actually play his cards very close to his chest. But equally, South Africans are aware of the challenges that he faces, but they want to see a team that is going to make a difference for South Africa. So it's up to the president himself to look at the constitution and say, I'm given the powers to appoint ministers, and whatever he does should be in the best interest of South Africa.
All right, Dr. Levi Ndou, political analyst, thank you so much for making time for us.